Season 3, Episode 9 of The Bad Batch is accurately titled The Harbinger. It was nice to get a glimpse of the Batch living normal-ish lives. Even Crosshair is pitching in with the locals and receiving thanks as a friend. Given that this is Star Wars, we know these good times aren't going to last. Hunter and Crosshair are still butting heads when Hunter reports the lack of contact from Fennec, but this time it was about the method, not the goal. Crosshair doesn't like sitting around waiting for intel. He wants to be more proactive. He also brings up a point that I have to agree with. Who cares why the Empire wants Omega? The Batch aren't going to hand her over regardless of that answer. Batcher and Omega are off on their own playing on the beach when Batcher runs off. This leads to Omega chasing her. This was another glimpse of normality not lasting. They come across a ship that looks very familiar, but I can't quite place it. Batcher ends up backing out of the cave nervously, and we get our first glimpse in a long time at Asaaj Ventress. After watching the rest of this episode, this part feels off. It's a misdirect on Asaaj's allegiances. She uses communing with nature as a direct test of the Force. We even see her deep connection to the living Force, deeper than I would have expected it given everything that happened in her past. Batcher should have been in tune with that and accepted Asaaj. Batcher has been a good judge of character in past episodes. Either way, Asaaj lectures the Batch and explains M-count to everybody. The writers really don't want to use the word metachlorians for whatever reason. Asaaj also comments on a clone never having been Force-sensitive. Even anecdotally from one character's point of view, this reinforces the lore debate many of us have been having. Asaaj's explanation on M-count reinforces my position that Omega is Force-sensitive. It's not that her blood is a vessel that accepts adding metachlorians. I'm jumping the gun here. Asaaj agrees to test Omega, and her testing is cool. We haven't seen a fallen Jedi begin someone's Force journey. I liked Omega's forever optimism and trust in people extending to someone as mysterious as Asaaj. I'm thinking less that this is childhood naivety and more Force-backed intuition. The second test Omega has to perform is getting to the top of Pabu and retrieving a somewhat rare flower. This didn't seem all that definitive in measuring someone's Force sensitivity. I did like the bit with Omega riding Batcher, showing the strong bond between the two. I was wondering if that is a display of Force sensitivity like Anakin's Beast Mastery in Episode 2. I had to tell myself to slow down. Not everything means Force sensitivity. But a little while later, when Asaaj uses nature as a final test for Omega, I felt validated. With Omega gone, which is the true purpose of the test, Asaaj lets the rest of the Batch confront her. I liked Asaaj's warning before the inevitable fight. This will not go the way you want it to. Asaaj is well aware of her past and how people see her. She never pleads or tries too hard to explain herself. The fight was cool to watch. The speed and physicality of these animated fights has come a long way since Clone Wars Season 1. The punches felt solid and the movements natural. My only issue with the fight was in how easily Asaaj beat our titular heroes. She's a Force wielder with both Jedi and Sith training. She's a Witch of Dathomir. She was an assassin and a bounty hunter. She's beyond capable. But the Batch are elite soldiers. I would have liked at least a couple moments of shock from Asaaj at how well they were doing. But the fight had to end in a specific way for the story, and overall, I'm okay with that. We get to see her ignite her now yellow lightsaber. The fight ends and Asaaj doesn't even attempt a killing blow. Omega shows up trying to call the whole thing off, but this wasn't a fight Asaaj wanted, even though she had no problem finishing it. The next day, Omega faces Asaaj alone. Asaaj feigns surprise at seeing her back. Omega's optimism and excitement annoy Asaaj in a very familiar way to people who have read Dark Disciple. If you haven't read it, it's not crucial for the storyline, but I do have a recap and review of it on this channel. The final test is where I was expecting Omega to show clear aptitude in the Force. Asaaj has a reach out in the middle of the ocean teeming with life. Omega gives up without giving it her all. I surprised myself when I felt relief at Omega failing. At that moment, I still believed the aptitude was there, but was happy to see it didn't come easily. Omega never had any proper training, and patience is not her strongest attribute. Asaaj reaches into the Force and calls forth ocean life. Cool glowing jellyfish circle the boat, and then flee quickly when a monster arrives. A battle ensues. The differing approaches to the galaxy are clear here when Asaaj has the Bad Batch back off. They've been flying the Marauder around and shooting at the monster. This is only making things worse. Asaaj manages to reach back into the Force, calming the beast and ending the fight without killing. This is a huge growth moment for Asaaj, especially for people who saw her as a bounty hunter last. Everyone reconvenes and Crosshair extends a hand to Asaaj. The two parties trust each other. Well, as much as these people can trust each other. Asaaj tells Omega that she is not strong in the Force, kind of like the Oracle in the Matrix. She tells her exactly what she needs to hear. She then gives a knowing nod to Omega, which Omega returns, and to me, this says the actual truth. Asaaj then goes on to tell the rest of the Bad Batch that Omega is Force sensitive. Between the knowing nod and this flat-out saying it, I'm not sure what the benefit of the lie was. Asaaj goes on to tell the rest of the Bad Batch that Omega would have to leave them in order to pursue Force training. She doesn't offer to take the child. She tells them that they aren't as safe as they think they are. Asaaj tracked them down with no intel after all. This is the most foreboding episode title we've gotten. A Harbinger is something that precedes a coming event, usually used in a negative connotation. Asaaj warns them that they aren't actually safe on Pabu. We all saw Pabu devastated in the trailer for this season. The more laid-back episodes of the series are coming to an end. Let's play the speculation game a little bit. What if by the end, Omega leaves her brothers, those that survive anyway, and goes off with Ventress for training? This non-conventional upbringing could make Omega a formidable warrior. I don't want to see all of our heroes die, but a big ending could be that the original Bad Batch sacrificed themselves. Omega is the sole survivor, and that's why she joins with Ventress. I don't actually think this will be the end, but it's something I've been considering. This is going to be a huge topic of discussion for Star Wars Online for at least the next week, so I do have to bring up Dark Disciple one more time. At the end of the novel, Asaaj dies. The foundation of the novel is unused stories from the Clone Wars series. Her death is not at all ambiguous. We didn't get a direct answer on how Asaaj is alive again. I wanted this information for my own curiosity, but even more so we don't have to deal with thousands of more comments saying continuity is broken. Just because we weren't spoon-fed the answers right away doesn't mean that an answer is not coming. Before leaving, Asaaj does say that she has a few more lives left, which was a nice nod to the book, but it also works as a metaphor. I already listed everything Asaaj has been, and there's more to come. Master could be the next life. Her time with Savage Opress wasn't really a proper master-apprentice relationship. It wouldn't have made sense for Asaaj to say to the Bad Batch, "Oh, by the way, I died. My body was back to Dathomir," which you probably never heard of. There's witch magic there, which you probably never heard of, and they used whatever it was to bring me back. Not only would this be horrible writing and clunky exposition, but it would mean nothing to the Bad Batch. Star Wars has always been semi-non-linear. We waited 25 years to get a definitive answer as to what the Clone Wars were. Answers come in time. Star Wars is forever filling in the gaps, diving into every bit of backstory. Not currently knowing doesn't mean that the story groups don't care about continuity and canon. I was completely fine with Quinlan Vos not showing up. I don't understand the huge love for this character. He doesn't feel like a Jedi. He's proud and arrogant. He abandons his vows to fall in love with a woman he barely knows. He embraces the dark side for a time. Yes, he's capable, he has a cool look and some cool unique talents, but he wouldn't have fit here and he wasn't needed for the story. Let me know what you thought about this episode. I had a great time with it, and it was cool to see Asaaj Ventress back in action. I'm looking forward to the stories that fill in the blanks, like her survival and her new saber color.